Okay, my name is Konstantin Mitkuc. I am a researcher from Austria, and I do research on learning in games and educational game usage, educational game design, and I work at Gambit. And at the moment I do research on AFTERLAND.
I'm Matthew Weiss. I'm the lead game designer for Gambit, and I worked with Konstantin on the project we did this summer.
So I think we have different approaches to the research question behind it, but a central research question we had was a certain focus on a learning theory. So the game AFTERLAND is a research tool, and that's like the theory is grounded on a concept that I wrote my PhD on, and the theory behind it was that we were interested in how people learn through failure, disappointment, and disillusionment, and how important expectations are in learning processes. Yeah, our try was how can we use it in a game, and how can we do research with the game on that learning theory.
Well, you originally brought that to me,
Yeah.
right? You were like I'm the researcher coming in, and you came up to me, and what did you say exactly?
I think in the beginning I said I wanted to talk about recursive learning.
Recursive learning, that's
or
right.
relearning. And one concept behind it was, I think in the beginning was quite hard for me to explain what I meant, because I came from I think a more learning theoretical background, and it was hard for me to translate it into game design.
And I remember saying that I found that interesting, and that sounded to me from a more game design, commercial game design point of view, that sounds like a great opportunity to mess with player expectations and just try to get them out of the normal game genre experiences that they're usually in. So I think you were just like, I have this elaborate learning theory and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, great, we can mess with people.
I think from a theoretical point of view, one of the first problems was, of course, how can we get a very abstract theory into a concrete game? But that problem, I think, turned out to be very useful when the students started to work on the prototypes. I was very surprised when I saw the prototypes, how like all the prototypes that were developed through this problem were really interesting and really showed different aspects of recursive learning and learning through failure. And I think that was one of the positive problems that were solved really quickly, but we also had some others.
Yeah, I feel like it took them a while to come up. We had several game prototypes. Most of them were based on existing game genres, like a 2D platformer, and people think they're playing a 2D platformer, but then they're really playing, another kind of game. I do remember that once we did settle on the game concept, we had there was a lot going back and forth about the art, about what the art would look like in the game and how that would communicate to the player a sense of expectation, not just through the mechanics, but also through the world of the game and how it looked. And I remember we had a big shake-up kind of a few weeks into the project where we completely changed the art style, and that had I remember it was tough, but it also had a significant positive impact on how the game came out, and we've definitely gotten a lot of feedback on the art for the game.
And I think one last issue we had is we came up with that concept how to build up an expectations, how to twist it, and how to build up a new expectation. But especially the last part, we kind of also found out that in 8 weeks it's very hard to really develop the whole last part of the game in the way we dreamed of. I think we came up with a very good pragmatic solution.
Yeah, we sort of had. I think the original idea was kind of a longer, more complex game, but we kind of had our initial expectation, the twist. And then there was supposed to be kind of a whole second part, but the second part is a bit simplified. Although I still think for the research, at least the way I understand the research, still works.
I think it even achieved more than the research goal, because I was interested in how we can design a game that focuses on how people learn through failure and through challenging their expectations. But we also learned something about cognitive dissonance theory, which means if a player in our game doesn't understand the twist of the game, is not ready to give up the first goal in the game, a certain phenomena kicks in, which means that he will go for the wrong goal no matter what. And that's even for me an outcome for the research that I didn't expect to be that strong. So we have multiple ways to research with that game now, and that's what I wanted. And besides that, I think it turned out to be really interesting. There is even a certain topic behind it that most people don't understand, I think. Maybe you can talk about that a little, but like the visual aspect of the game is really interesting, and I think there are not a lot of games out there that are like that, and I think most players are not used to games like that.
Yeah, from my perspective, the thing I really like about the game is how it punishes experienced players and rewards inexperienced players, because the patterns of normal expected player behavior that you would be very used to if you were a hardcore gamer are easy to fall into and never get out of in the game. And you could look at this as a flaw, because a lot of people who are really good at the game kind of complete it but get the bad ending. And I actually like that, because they feel betrayed and they feel upset, which is always a wonderful thing to do to a player. And I think that the fact that people who are not so good at video games are often incidentally rewarded for not being good at video games and find themselves winning the game, to me completely explodes the concept of what a video game reward failure structure should be, and what kinds of behaviors should be rewarded and what kinds of behaviors should be punished. And it's those kind of dominant, entirely implicit ideologies in most game design that, I mean, I'm not saying that given more time we could explore it better, but I think the game is an interesting step at exploring something like that. And, so yeah.
And if you play Afterland, if you think about what you're doing and if you reflect your expectations, you can really learn something about yourself. And that was kind of like our goal, to develop a tool that can do that. And I think we reached that stage. Like we're now using that game for a further research project, and we get a lot of different outcomes and players that interpret the learning in that game very differently. And I think so that's exactly what we wanted in that aspect. I'm very happy.
Yeah, so it's going to be used for studying relearning in players.
Yep.